Well, it's time for episode 251 of the 3 Point Podcast, presented by Memorial Healthcare and Skymint Cannabis. Fellas, before we move on, just got to reflect for 1 second on 250. How fun was that last week with Dan Miller and Daniel Morrill? I mean, it just was a fun podcast. We had some other special guests and cameos. It was just fun to put together.
Yeah, it was. I mean, 250. I mean, we talked about it last week. Weird. Kind of feel like a little bit of a crazy person talking about it, that type of accomplishment. But yeah, we talked to a lot of fun people, heard from our sponsors. I mean, my favorite was the very end where we had a nice cameo from our good friend Jack Strapp, who hasn't been on a pod, and I don't think maybe since episode 20 he hasn't been on.
It's been a while,
but it was good to finally hear from him. I mean, we were worried about him; we hadn't heard from him for a couple of years, so it's good to hear that he's still kicking.
I was wondering if he got lost over there in Chi-Town or something like that. But yeah, I've actually had some friends ask why Jack Strapp went away, and I was like, I'm not too sure on that one. But no, good to hear from him, and everything you just said, Jared. And I mean, I didn't want to sound like a fanboy or whatever with Dan Miller, but yeah, I really do look forward to those videos that they drop. Matching up his calls with the plays from Lions games. So it was cool to get to talk to him.
It was,
and get a little. I mean, I think we all do. We like hearing the behind the scenes type of stuff, and how did you get here? Type of stories. Where did you come from? All those, and yeah, talking to Coach Morrill, Lanesburg's coach. I ended up asking, or my sister, who I mentioned when we were talking to him, she did text me and said like they listened to it, her and her family, and she's the one that's a teacher in Lanesburg.
Yeah,
and she said that she knows the assistant coach and him. And so that was really cool to listen to and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was a good mix of like, kind of the star radio guy and then a nice, cool, like local basketball coach. It was a good mix.
It really was. And we have a good mix of sponsors too. I mentioned it briefly, Memorial Healthcare. They have so much going on there at the new wellness center. You can lift weights, you can do treadmill stuff, you can walk the sky track, and they got a very cool thing coming up. Just ideas, especially for us knucklehead guys. Maybe line your girlfriend or significant other up with a nice massage there. What a great idea. And they got, I think, 3 or 4 world-class massage rooms there, and man, I think your significant other might like that. Hint, Jared.
Get one for yourself. What are you talking about, man?
Too.
Massages are great. I used to get them regularly. I haven't now in a little while, but I'll tell you what. Some people maybe can't get past the being rubbed down by a stranger type of thing, but you feel like $1 million after you leave. Body's all loosened up, especially you start getting older. Your back gets tight and your legs get tight and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
I don't know if there's a more relaxing afternoon at the wellness center than a massage, sauna, and steam room all in one.
Sounds amazing.
That's a combination. Also, speaking of combinations, guys, Skymint Cannabis. I don't even know if you're aware of this, but pretty soon, a Michigander over 21 is going to be living every cannabis consumer's dream: free marijuana for an entire year. Now, how can they do that, right? I mean, how is that possible?
I'm going to assume, it's like those other giveaways where it's like free chicken sandwiches or free burgers. It's limited. It's like 2 a week or, like 1 a day, something like that. So I'm sure there's going to be a limit. It's not going to just be like shelling out the weed. But
the limit is
that's still that's an awesome deal. Either way, that's an awesome deal.
Here's the limit. I'm pretty sure this is what it is. It's $500 worth of Skymint products a month. Now that's a dream come true for some people out there.
In other words, head to their website and sign up, man. I mean, I that's more than you can even fathom. That's more than Ted in 1970s at a Leonard Skinner concert levels. That's what that is.
No question. And it's
Ted out there at Cobo Arena, just passing it back and forth, throwing pizza boxes across the stadium.
No, the flashback I have is camping out at the Silverdome parking lot along the fence in February to get Led Zeppelin tickets.
That must have been, yeah, you needed some Skymint products to get through that, man. That sounds horrible.
Well, if you're interested, and this is a real deal, go on skymint.com or maybe give them a follow on Instagram. Enter the code FREEWEED on any online order to enter. I mean, it's that simple. And they also have 24 second place winners. They're going to receive a huge, and I don't even know how big this is, but I think it's pretty big, a 10-gram pre-roll. Is that pretty big, Jared?
I think that's like 10 times the normal size. So
It is.
I can't even picture that. Man, they got a lot of cool, deals. I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, great company, a lot of cool little promotions and stuff to check out. So it's awesome.
Amen.
So what, you enter just by doing an online order?
Not even, you can just enter in sweepstakes competition online till January 30th. So you don't have that much time to do it.
No.
So if you're hearing this message and you are 21 and you enjoy the product, highly recommend taking a shot at it. Why not?
Yeah, it's almost a no-brainer. Just go ahead and do it.
No cost involved. And if you are in the Corunna area, you still can go into the Corunna store. If you're a first-time customer, go in. You can get 20% off Skymint products. Just tell them the code 3.20. That'll get you hooked up. Also want to thank all our great local partners. You know, you don't make it to 250 without other great folks, and they include AZEE Printing Solutions, Crow Real Estate and Auction, Rivals, Taphouse, and Grille. By the way, they're going to be serving lunches coming up. I think right now you can go in there for lunch. So that's a new thing they've added. Capital Sports Fieldhouse, Nelson House Funeral Homes, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Well, before we get rolling along too far here in the program, fellers, Jared, I understand you might have a story for us or a catch-up thing.
This is right up both your alleys for different reasons. One, Matt, you're doing something new with the kids every weekend, so you could use a new thing to do that's maybe not going to the beach. And Ted, this sounds like the perfect retirement activity for you. Okay. So this past a week ago, we were doing a story, where basically we take our talent, Devin Gardner, and he learns, he learns how to do something. It's called Devin Does It. Well, what we did this past week was we went to the Detroit Curling Club in Ferndale, Michigan. And when I say I was blown away, I was absolutely blown away. You walk in this place, and it's apparently been a club since like 1850 or something like that. And we had a great guy who was there to kind of give us the whole lowdown of the place, Mike. And he just was running through the history of curling. And apparently curling was the very first match of curling in the United States took place on Orchard Lake. And we got the opportunity to play this sport. And let me just say, I've watched it on the Olympics a time or two, but it is a lot harder than what you think. I thought it was going to be as simple as, walk out on the ice, slide it down the ice, and you're good. The stone, as they call it, it's made of granite, 45 pounds of granite. No, you have to you're loaded up into like a sprinter stance essentially, and you push off, and after you glide for 15 feet or so, you have to let go of this. They call it a stone, right. And it takes a long time to learn. I mean, Devin went through a whole hour-long training thing and still kind of didn't totally have a great grasp of it. I mean, it's a hard sport, but what I learned while we were there was, one, it's open bar. They got bar. They have big glass windows. You can look and see the 5 different lanes. This place was popping. I mean, this league started at 5:00, and it was filled to the gills at 3:00 when we got there, with these people just drinking beers, getting ready to play. And curling is just exploding in popularity. From what we were told, basically they don't have enough spots to fill the demand for members that want to join curling. And basically what I took away from it, long story short, was this is one hell of a sport that, Ted, I think it sounds like the perfect addition to your already daily routine of hitting the wellness center, getting your steps in, hitting the sauna. I think after that, you need to head to your local curling club and pick up the sport, because although it's hard, there was something magical about when you actually could perfectly roll the stone and time it upright. It's one of my favorite sports now. I think they gained a fan in me. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. It sounds like he's trying to get you into something like shuffleboard. Shuffleboard is a big it's
almost identical, more my speed, man. I was thinking the same thing. I'm not talking the shuffleboard that old farts do with the sticks. Right. I'm talking about the bar style.
Yeah, I was talking about the old fart style, right, if we're going to say that. But the bar shuffleboard is one of my favorite games. I love that. I would love to have one in my house someday or whatever, sit there and watch the Lions and play some shuffleboard. But curling,
Uh-huh.
I did similar thing that you did, Jared, when I was in Grand Rapids working at Fox 17. We did a story one time on a curling club in Grand Rapids when it was probably whichever Winter Olympics would have been back then, when curling was kind of starting to get a little popular, back in 2008 or 2009 or, whatever. We went and did a story, same thing. And the reporter learned how to curl, all that classic stuff that local news does that you just did. But it's one of those cool things that, like, I probably would have never went to a curling club if it wasn't for working on that story, So it was, and they let us, they let me try it out with my camera and, do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it would be fun. It's one of those things, like, if you had a group of friends, 6, 7, 8 friends, and you had, could get in a league, that would be a fun Tuesday night evening. Like you go, like you said, you have some drinks, you do some curling. Yeah. You don't have to be a pro, just, go do it and have some fun. That would be a good time.
Couple of behind the scenes questions I have, Jared. First of all, did you try it?
I did, like, one time, but I was more of an observer than anything. Okay. I mean, it was kind of scary to try it, if I'm being honest. Like, we had a few different people trying it, right? And like I said, I mean, they're falling down, like, and they're honestly, the more I think about it, with your new hip, I'm not sure that this would have been the best sport for you, because you're 100% taking a wipe or two.
I'm more worried about my old hip. My new hip's bionic, man. I can handle it.
Did you put the shoes on, Jared? Did you put the special shoes?
Yeah. So it made it look like I was wearing bowling shoes, because I have, like, these black Nike shoes I wear that the bottoms are white, but when I put these black grippers on it, it looked like it was just like an all black shoe. But yeah, what surprised me is you have a lot of traction. You would think, like, being on this ice, you're slipping and sliding everywhere. No, it's like these grippers are wonderful. It's like you're walking on grass.
Yeah, now the other question is, you got to have a good roll of the stone, right? You got to have a good throw to get it somewhat accurate.
Right.
How much involved is the whole broom sweeping thing to get it to where it wants to go?
Well, I mean, that basically depends on the throw.
Okay.
I mean, right. I mean, they do it every single throw. I wish I kind of understood more the nuance to it. But it's basically to make it, like, to create get rid of, like, debris and then friction, let it slide more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they do it every time. And I wish I knew more. Like, I'm sure it's something like, playing baseball, or like, there's some science to throwing a curveball or something. There's probably some reason why they're always doing it.
Right.
I didn't get that deep.
Another last question. I like details. Is there going to be available somewhere, whether it's in your office or whatever? I think it'd be kind of cool to have a highlight reel of bloopers of the guys falling down, maybe to some funny music.
The final piece is, I'm in the middle of editing it right now, so yeah, it will be coming down the pipe. But it's just, I mean, overall, I mean, one thing that you can't do enough of in this life is try new things, and that's something, like Matt said. If whatever reason found my way to this curling club, it's an experience I'll never forget. And it's a sport that definitely it leaves me wanting more. I want to master it.
Yeah.
No, it was definitely one. I tried it a handful of times. The time that I did the story on it, and it did leave me. I was like, I want to go back and master this now, because you do it a few times, you start kind of getting the hang of it a little bit, and then you had to leave. So I was like, but obviously I haven't gone back since. Right. But it was definitely one of those, like, I wanted to get good at it. It would be fun.
That might be the nearest curling club to me. I don't know if there's one in Lansing or the Flint area, but that does sound like a blast. There's bowling in the wintertime. That's cool, but it's, you might want to try something different. I know Top Golf really became huge, and I think it'd be kind of neat if a state like Michigan, and like you said, if it started in the state, maybe some of these curling clubs show up. It'd be awesome.
Top Golf is fun. I know there's 2 in Charlotte down here. And they're starting to pop up a lot more. It's kind of like, it's pretty pricey, first of all.
Yeah.
Like, it's a pricey date night, or especially if you're going with some friends or whatever, especially if you're going to eat, drink, and play golf. It does add up. Mm-hmm. And it sometimes, like, Jared, you golf. So, like, are you going to actually try? Or are you going just to, like, hack away and just mess around? That's because there's people who bring their own clubs, and it's like, all right, you're being a little too serious about this. But then it's also like, I just spent like almost $200. I do actually want to, like, try and do good. So that the few times I've done Top Golf, it's like, am I just messing around, or do I actually want to, like, try and get high score here? So, and then
It's a
once you
delicate-
start having drinks, you do just start
Yeah.
messing around. So.
It's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Golf is one of those funny sports where it's like you kind of almost have to have your clubs to truly. I mean, you get
Right.
so accustomed to them and dial in the distance and all that's so important. But I've never brought the clubs to Topgolf. I've seen it done.
Yeah.
Every time you see it, you kind of have to do a double take. Like, really, dude? I mean,
Right.
like you said, it's if you're going there, with your buddies, it's like almost like a impromptu driving range with like a couple extra, like some food there and some drinks.
Mhm.
Oh, we bring the clubs. Why not? It's basically just a practice session at a nicer driving range. But if you're there, like on a group date or whatever, and you're bringing your golf clubs, I mean, you got a problem. We'll say this about the clubs at Topgolf: the grips are like so worn that like my hands are always like super sweaty, so I could hardly ever grip them. So it's like I remember like basically I was like squeezing them as hard as I could just to make it so I'm not the idiot that flings the club out into the driving range.
Yeah.
But no, it's awesome. I mean, that's a great way to put it. I would say curling is a lot like a Topgolf, where it's just a fun sport. I mean, my favorite thing about it was no matter what happens in the match, and this is like a rule at this club, you have to have a drink with the opposing team.
Nice.
And, it's like you have to top it off at least one drink afterward with the opposing team to break bread.
I do remember that rule. I thought that was pretty cool. Speaking of Topgolf, I feel like I maybe have mentioned this before on the podcast, maybe not. But so one of our awesome partners, Jim Woodworth at Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, his brother is really big into real estate, Woodworth. And I've always said, Randy, yep. I've always said Sports Creek should be a Topgolf. It's already got the whole facility. There's nothing there anymore at Sports Creek. It used to be the horse track, so they've already got the facility. It probably needs to be upgraded and stuff like that. I've always said, like, Randy, go, because he's into investing and all that kind of stuff. Dude, go buy Sports Creek and turn it into a Topgolf. I don't know if that's the right spot for a Topgolf.
I don't know. Not bad.
Yeah.
Well, that Sports Creek, I tell you what, there's a news story on Facebook every like 2 weeks that some new owner bought it and they're revamping it, and it's going to be the new, home of the Kentucky Derby. I fall for it every time. Seems like there hasn't been one of those stories lately, but why not? I mean, put something there, man. Seems like
I went there. I probably ended up going there. Honestly, only 2, maybe 3 times when it was still actually running horse races. Ted, was that like when it was in its heyday? Was that like a thing you guys did? Because it's fairly close.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, I'll tell you what. Dave Moyles, who owned Riverbend Bowl, had a horse. So it kind of had a local connection. Dick Moffitt, the former coach, Hall of Famer, he was over there pretty much every week. Him and the Anises, and I went there a few times. Probably the most fun I ever had over there, though, was when I stayed home on my couch and I gave Phil Anise some money and said, "Here, just throw it on something." He comes home, hands me, I think, about $150
there you go.
He put down for me. So that was fun. But yeah, that was a cool spot, really. If you like the trotters,
right.
A couple funny things there. One, how much corruption did that place probably have back in the day? Probably a lot, I could imagine too. It's funny when you think of, a Corunna high roller is somebody who owned the local like bowling alley, and he's the guy that had the horse. I just think that's hilarious.
He had the inside track.
Yeah.
Riverbend's classic though. Riverbend is I hope, how, Capital Bowl, and I know Capital Sports Fieldhouse is one of our awesome partners. Capital Bowl to me, like it was always there when I grew up, so it kind of stinks that it's not there anymore. So it's kind of like Riverbend. I hope that Riverbend stays if it ever has to change owners or, whatever happens. It's like Riverbend is just a staple. That has to always be a bowling alley right there in Corunna.
Yeah, I think they're in good shape because since the Capitol did shut down bowling, they got all the locals, and they seem to be doing pretty good business when I drive by there at the evenings in the wintertime, especially. Lots and lots of cars. We were talking about,
especially now. I know you're probably about to move on to the Prep Spotlight pretty soon, and so kind of, I think you mentioned this a few weeks ago. Now, like bowling it's like an actual high school sport, right?
Yes, it is.
Do they do it right there at Riverbend?
Corunna Cavaliers home bowling alley right there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, one of the girls, I'll get it, and I won't have it in the spotlight, but I just read it in the newspaper. I think it's Carly Pavka, just bowled a 256 in high school competition. That's pretty darn good. I mean, I'm always happy when I break triple figures. If I get over 100, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I've never been good at bowling, man. I don't think I've ever broke triple digits. So you got me in that sport.
I bowled a 300 one time on Wii bowling.
I had a couple of those myself.
Yeah.
By the way, before we move on to the prep spotlight, I did briefly, since we were talking about the horses, I saw, Matt, that Claire got her first horse ride, huh?
She did. Yeah.
How'd that go?
She loved it. It's kind of funny. Like, we've had a birthday party. Jared, this is a look into your future life
Yes.
if you decide to have children. We've had a birthday party every Saturday of this year. There's another one this Saturday. There's another one next Saturday. Every Saturday. Not luckily, because I would like to go, but I've had to work on Saturdays. So it's been
Good save, Matt.
It's been my wife taking her to all these birthday parties every single weekend. But this past one, it was at a horse farm at a neighboring, I guess, suburb of Charlotte. And yeah, they got, they had pizza and did all that kind of stuff, but there was a petting zoo, and then they got to ride horses. Pretty cool. But
that is
she
cool.
was a little nervous at first, but she got up there and did it. And my wife said she loved it. So it was a cool experience for her.
I've never ridden a horse, man. Did you ride a horse at all, Matt? And obviously you didn't go this past Saturday, but have either of you guys ever ridden a horse?
I have one.
Similar thing, like those guided horse
yeah,
rides or whatever. I've done a few times.
I rode some old nag, man. That thing would not get up and go, but my balls were just aching because I didn't know how to do it. There's a certain way you gotta go.
You gotta kip with it, man.
Right. Yeah. So it was a rough outing. That's all I can say.
Speaking of that, we're going all over the place right now. This could maybe be a later Tedertainment Tonight thing, but are you guys not impressed when you watch like Yellowstone or some of these other shows, like whether it's Kevin Costner or Harrison Ford?
Ford blew my
he's
mind.
up there a little bit, but they're out there like actually riding these horses. It's like that's actually like pretty impressive.
Do you think it's not stunt doubles? I like to believe that it's Kevin Costner, Ted's hero, out there pulling all these maneuvers, but the cynic in me makes me think it's a stunt double. But I don't want to know the answer, so let's just go on with accepting it's Costner.
For sure, some of those where they're like sprinting, I have to imagine it's stunt doubles. But there's some shots where they're just trotting along, like Ted was trying to do on his horse. I'm just because Harrison Ford. I mean, I could look it up right now. He's not very
80s.
young.
He's in his 80s.
So I mean, for him to be up there on a horse, that's pretty impressive.
Well, we'll save further talk on this for Tedertainment because I got a couple thoughts on Taylor Sheridan, but good catching up with you boys as always. And let's get to some more sports stuff. We'll have the prep spotlight coming up right after this. Capital Sports Fieldhouse is the home of hit and pitch and a whole lot more. The 10,000 square foot turf field can be used for all indoor sports training, including football, baseball, basketball, softball, soccer, and many other activities. Hit and Pitch has 7 indoor batting cages with full pitching tunnel and the state-of-the-art Hit Tracks training system utilized by MLB organizations. Located in the old Capitol Bowl J.C. Penney block on South Washington in Owosso, Michigan. For more details, call Capital Sports and Hit and Pitch at 989-472-4624 or online at capitalsportsfh.com. All right, boys, of course, the prep spotlight brought to you by Capital Sports Fieldhouse. And, we'll just keep it here local. Langsburg, again, we talked about them last week with their head coach, Daniel Morrill, picked up another win. Now they're unbeaten at 11-0. Eli Woodruff poured in 21 in their 59-35 win over Potterville. Ovid Elsie also stays hot. Clay Wittenberg put up 28 in their 76-47 rout of Hill McCloy Montrose. By the way, guys, we added a game. This is going to be a fun one. Z92.5 added a game. Ovid Elsie at Langsburg, Tuesday, January 31st. So looking forward to those teams going at it. A couple great coaches, a couple great programs. That's going to be a lot of fun.
That is cool. It's Coach Latz, right?
Yeah, Josh Latz. Yeah, and he's a big fan of ours too, by the way.
Yeah, he was. I'd be curious if he remembers me because we played against him. He was in my class.
Yeah. And okay, I bet he does.
We played against him. He was a good player for them, so it's cool.
He's always, from what I understand, good buddies with our good friend, Coach Clough, Rockford. So he's kind of that same sort of tree, if you want to call it that. But yeah, he seems like kind of a potential guest on this show. I'm almost surprised we haven't had him on yet because. We were talking last week, Lanesburg, this sustained program for all these years. I mean, Ovid Elsie's right there under Latz.
100% agree. And, I'll definitely reach out to him. As we've talked about many times here, it's hard enough for us to get an hour together, the three of us. So anytime we get a guest, there's a
Yeah.
little extra effort involved in that. But
Right.
I'll take that up for sure. I've thought about that, Jared, and he definitely will come on with us. It'd be good to hear from him.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of high school basketball, our Corona Cavaliers improved to 8-2 with a 67-53 win over Brandon. Wyatt Bauer led the way with 20. Coach Rocky Buscemi over there just keeps getting it done. Just picks up W's, runs a good program over there. He came up from the Detroit area, and this team now is starting to believe in themselves. 8-2. They got some talent on that team, and they're still really young. A lot of juniors on that squad.
Similar to the football team. I mean, they're building something focused on this year, but maybe bigger things next year.
Absolutely. Also, I got to send a shout out to the Owosso Trojans boys basketball program. I mean, they're improving, but lost a tight one to Clio, 49-44. The Trojans trailed 28-12 at the half, but actually took a 38-37 lead into the fourth quarter, rather, only to fall short. I just got to send a shout out to Coach Dave Owens for, keeping them fighting, man. And you just never know. We got the Z92.5 game of the week coming up this Friday. Corona at Owosso, and that warehouse can get rocking there. You just never know. And I think their one win they had in like the last 3 or 4 years was against Corona. So
Yeah,
you never know.
I tell you what, it is like it's two different teams at the warehouse and then not at the warehouse. There always seems to be a little extra magic and definitely a lot of hatred in the gym when Corona and Owosso meet up.
Especially the student sections. Sometimes a little bit out of control for this old guy, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I remember a little throwback. So my senior year, obviously, we had Josiah Urbright, who transferred over school of choice.
Yeah,
right.
Educational reasons, came over to Corona, played basketball for us. You grew up in Owosso, and you want to talk about an electric crowd. That first time we played at Owosso versus Owosso, oh man, that was a tense game. We won, of course, but that was rowdy. That was a rowdy environment. That was cool though.
And what's fun, I just got down that really sparked a idea in my brain, Matt, because Ted, you're saying how that the one win against Corona came, 3-4 years ago. That's kind of been a tradition over the years where it seems like when there's good players at Owosso, they seem to kind of jump the fence and come to Corona. Well, what's funny about that game, I remember, I think Corona had like 3 or 4 kids from Owosso, and Owosso still came and beat Corona. So that's just kind of a funny little thing that's been happening for years that Owosso kind of had the last laugh in a few years ago.
Well, we'll see what happens Friday night. We'll be bringing you the girls game exclusively through 3 Point Podcast, and the boys game on Z92.5, and also replayed at 3 Point Pod. One final note here in the prep spotlight: the Morris Lady Orioles, Mackenzie Dorner set a new school record with 9 triples and finished with 31 points as the Orioles down Flint Beecher 54-38. They're having a pretty good season over there. I think they're 9-3 on the girls' side, and anybody that can hit 9 3-point shots, boy or girl, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
it's a lot better than I ever shot it. That's for damn sure. I don't know if I've ever made 9 threes, even in a row. Like if I was just standing in a gym by myself, there's no chance I've ever even done that. So to do it,
Did you ever make one? Did you ever make one in a varsity game, Jared?
Oh yeah, I've had a couple games with a couple, man.
Oh, all right.
Even though I could not ever shoot, it was like there was a knot in my brain or something. I never could quite get over it.
You were just a defensive stopper, is what it is, huh?
I was nothing. I was a bench cheerer. So team, great glue guy, man.
But you got to have the glue.
I mean, you had to play basketball because of your last name, though, right?
Yeah, and as Ted always says, I had a couple opportunity to make a couple clutch free throws against Durand that didn't quite fall through. So what didn't exactly have the clutch gene either. So
well, football you made up for it, Jared. Football you made up for it,
right?
All right, that's our prep spotlight brought to you by Capital Sports Fieldhouse. Any ideas for us? Any thoughts? Let us know. We will definitely be hooking up with Josh Latz and maybe some of the other area coaches in future editions of this as we get a little bit closer to March. But we'll jump into some sports potpourri right after this.
All right, fellas, I can start this portion. There's a big story that's been going around, obviously, since the Bengals and the Bills game wrapped up yesterday. Stephon Diggs. If you guys haven't happened to see what happened post game, basically the report came out that he As soon as the game was over, he, stormed off the field, basically ran out of the locker room, had to get brought back in by Duke Johnson for only, a second or two before he left again. Rumors are he maybe didn't even see the coach's speech at the end of the day. And then before that, obviously, we saw the argument taking place with Diggs and Allen just not even paying attention to him on the sideline. I have a serious problem with this, and I seem to be almost in the minority of this because obviously this whole story with Eli Apple coming out and DeMar Hamlin, we don't need to get into that. But my big problem was Stephon Diggs. We remember him from years ago after they lost the Chiefs, him having the big, famous picture with the confetti falling as he's watching. JJ McCarthy has copied that now twice in a row without having any positive results. But anyway, so Stephon Diggs, ever since then, he's been on my radar as, he's a great player, makes a great catch. We obviously saw the catch against the Vikings earlier this year, but I don't like him. And he came out basically to his own defense, basically saying how, it's easy to mock me. It's easier to mock me than it is to mock, the team for the performance. What am I supposed to do? Like, am I supposed to not be upset about losing? Here's what you're supposed to do. How about just save it for the locker room, which you clearly just ran right out of. You didn't even have the time of day to talk to your teammates about, this great season you guys had that had just a terrible ending. I just have a problem with it, especially when you're one-upping your quarterback and you see Josh Allen have to go to the podium right after the game, basically explain what the hell was going on the sideline. He did a great job basically just covering Stephon Diggs, saying, we probably should have got him the ball more. Sometimes it's just not in the cards, especially with a wide receiver. And it seems to be wide receivers who are always like the biggest prima donnas over this type of thing, man. They can't feed you the ball 15 times a game. You're not a quarterback. You're not a running back. It's a little bit harder to kind of game plan touches. I don't know about what you guys thought, but I've never really seen a teammate do something like that where they just totally run out of the locker room, don't even pay attention to the guys after the game. It really rubbed me the wrong way, and it's been bothering me for a couple of days ever since it happened. What'd you guys say?
Yeah, I'm sure it's happened before in the past. I'd be surprised if this was the first time ever someone ran out like that, but I know what you mean. Spotlight's a little more on him. Right. He's the star receiver. And, the Bills were kind of the darling pick of, the AFC this year. Even before the season, a lot of people were picking them to win the Super Bowl. So, a little bit of a disappointing end for them to not even make the AFC Championship. I don't know. It's one of those things, like, emotions are obviously running high. Especially on the sidelines, people yell at each other all the time. We see video of that all the time. Players yelling at each other, coaches yelling at players, players yelling at coaches. I don't make anything of that. The interaction between him and Diggs and Allen. But I'm with you on the running out of the locker room after the game. Like, if you got to yell at some players in the locker room, okay, cool, do that. Scream at your coach. Why didn't you get me the ball more? Do whatever. Right. But yeah, to know that the coach is going to have to go answer questions. Josh Allen is going to have to go answer questions to the press. Other players are probably going to have to go answer questions, and you're just going to run out like that. It is kind of like putting the spotlight on me, or, whatever you want to say. So, and then just to think, like, they always do exit interviews, or, they basically have to go in and like turn in their equipment type of thing. So what is he going to do? Go back to the team facility and be like, hey guys, sorry about running out on you after we lost. So just kind of a bad look, ultimately whatever, I'm sure his teammates are like, he was just upset, I don't know, but
yeah. And
bad look.
My simple thought is, it's a bad look. And I've never really been a big fan of that kind of behavior, whether it be, little leaguers trying to emulate the people they see that are older. We just saw a clip of little kids playing basketball, flexing. Right. Okay. Where's that all come from? From these morons, at the NFL and NBA level that take it to that kind of attitude. I've always been more of a believer, and I had a pretty hot temper myself when I played, but you still got to be under control, and you still got to kind of tone it down and pick your spots if you're gonna lodge a complaint, if you will. But it just was a bad look all the way around, and I'm sure it's just going to be yesterday's news probably tomorrow. But yeah, I agree with you on that one, Jared, which surprises me a little bit because I've heard your take on different things that you and I disagree about, similar vein a little bit. But you like the electricity, the hot dogging, if I can put it that way, more than I do.
There's a difference between I love celebrations. I love. I mean, you're telling me you don't love Jamal Williams' touchdown dances? I mean, he's getting fined for them, so clearly they're not allowed.
Okay.
There's a difference between that and like berating your like quarterback after obviously he didn't have his best game. Obviously, this offensive line didn't have their best game. Obviously, this offensive coordinator didn't have their best game. There's a difference between berating them for really no constructive reason.
No, I'll give you that.
Like,
I'll give you that
other than
part.
just to have the cameras on you and make it look like you're like some badass doing it. It just
Mhm.
and maybe he regrets it. Doesn't seem like he does. He hasn't apologized for it.
Right.
It was like toddler behavior. And it just really bothered me. And I loved how the entire team handled it, where they just like ignored him. Like, dude, you're making a ass of yourself. Go ahead and do that, and we're just gonna move on with our lives.
Well, let me just put it on the table here real quick before Matt jumps in. I am not a huge fan of the excessive celebration stuff where now they score a touchdown. Oh, we got this all planned out. Let's pose for the camera and we'll lay on the ground and do this and do that. I am not a fan of that. The NFL, I don't think you really need that. Me, I'm old school. Barry Sanders, hand the ball off to the damn referee.
Dude,
I don't need all that other stuff.
I knew Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
Barry Sanders is the classic go-to for.
But baseball, I will say they probably did need a little bit more juice, but I don't see it in the NFL. I just don't. I mean, okay, a little celebration, fine, but all this pre-choreographed crap, forget it. That's my old man talking right there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair because some of them do probably go over the line, but it's also entertainment. I mean, we're all watching it.
If you're entertained, I'm not.
To be entertained. I mean, different people like different TV shows too. Different people like different sports. Some people watch soccer, some people don't.
Yep.
You know, everyone likes different stuff. If anything, these guys are getting paid millions of dollars to do whatever the hell they want. If they want to do it and the NFL is going to allow it, then they can do it. They're the ones out there playing, putting their literal lives on the line. So if they want to have fun after they score a touchdown, I don't think a couple of loudmouths saying like, no celebrating on the field, be like Barry Sanders and be class. I don't think that's going to really have any effect on
the whole league was Barry Sanders. Oh my God. I don't think I could watch it. That's boring. Hand it off to the official.
Isn't it all about scoring touchdowns? Isn't it all about interceptions?
Cheering me on. You're a hypocrite. Here's
how
I know.
You watch a game to watch them dance in the end zone? That's what you watch a game for?
No, I know you love, Michigan gets an interception. What do they all do? They all run over to their like recruiting coordinator or whatever he is, and they pose for a photo. I know you love it. I know you love that.
You can tell I love it. All right.
So you draw a line at weird spots. No, here's where I'll draw the line. I have a problem when it's things like Ocho Cinco would go over the line a lot. Like, dude, like he has a pen in his pants and he's signing it off, or he's doing whatever with the goalpost. Like there's a line with there. But if you're just scoring a touchdown, you do some sort of dance. I mean, Jamar Chase doing the gritty or whatever. I love it. It's entertaining, man. Jamal Williams, every time he scored a touchdown Sunday Night Football against Aaron Rodgers, guess what I was doing right as he scored? I was hopping out of my chair doing this touchdown dance right there with him. So I have no problem with it.
Is there a fine line? Is there any line that you cross that you don't enjoy? I mean, I agree with you that a little celebration is okay. It's natural. And that's the word, natural. When it's just, hey, man, I scored a touchdown and celebrate a little bit. Okay. But don't you think it's gone too far? Isn't it too much choreographed stuff?
I mean, it's also fun. It's a game. I mean, they're out there playing a game for fun.
Well, you don't agree with me. That's okay.
It's not like it's brain surgery where like after they do open heart surgery on someone, they're doing some choreographed dance or something like that. Like it's a game. I mean, the clip you mentioned earlier about it was, I don't know, basically AAU for fourth graders or whatever it was, where they're doing all the stuff that NBA players do now. Yeah, that looks ridiculous because, at least in my opinion, that's not the age that you should be teaching those kids how to do that kind of stuff. That's more on the parents to me and the coaches than those players. Because I know when I was a kid playing basketball, I was acting like Grant Hill or I was acting like Jalen Rose or, you act like the players you watch. And then it's on your parents and your coaches to maybe tone it down a little bit or say, let's play the game the right way. These are professional, grown men getting paid millions of dollars to entertain us and to play a kid's game basically and have fun. I'm not going to get mad at them for celebrating a touchdown, I guess.
Yeah, there's a difference between celebrating and taunting, I guess is maybe where I would say I would draw. Those kids in that video were taunting.
Right.
They were ruthless, man. I mean, I feel bad. Ted, with your grandchildren, Matt, with your kids. I mean, this could be your future. You're talking about how you've been working on Saturdays. You have birthday parties. I mean, this could be your Saturday in 3 or 4 years is going to an event like that and watching that. I think that's an isolated incident. I don't think that's kids everywhere.
Right.
If kids are doing, whatever Steph Curry 3 goggles, I don't have a problem with it. It's when you're taunting kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I drew the line on that video.
It's
That's fair.
the too small that everyone does now. Everyone does it, even if they're getting guarded by someone that's bigger than them, and they score and they do the too small thing. That's like, I don't know, that not necessarily crossing the line, because sometimes I kind of like it, but when you see a fifth grader doing it because you hit your growth spurt before the other kid, like,
I don't think I ever saw, like, maybe you guys remember this. I don't ever remember seeing that, like, when I was a kid, like some kid I was playing against or some teammate of mine, like doing some sort of I don't, I've never seen it. There's one time I've actually ever remembered somebody doing a celebration. And it was, my buddy who was a center, like we had 8th grade game, last game of the year. He somehow had a miraculous, like 5 or 6 threes, like in a row, and did like the Jason the Jet Terry jet celebration down the court. I will say that was electric, and I was a big fan of that. And it was like in the middle of a scoring run, crowd was loving it. But yeah, I think we're all in agreement here. There's definitely going a little bit too far the other way.
Yeah, and I think the slippery slope is, they're having fun and they're doing this and that, but it does trickle down to the youth, and then it just makes it that much tougher for the parents and the coaches to keep them in line. When they're seeing it, the adults, the so-called adults, acting that way.
All right, well, they're still adults. What do you mean so-called adults? They're still adults. They're just celebrating a touchdown. If it makes the job too hard, for the parents and the coaches because they can't scale back to celebrating, maybe they shouldn't be doing it.
All right, we just disagree. We just disagree on this one, man. The game itself is enough for me. I don't need all this extracurricular celebrations, but that's just me. Here's something to celebrate, though, guys. I don't know if we were going to
for Ted.
I don't know if we were going to talk about. I don't know if we were going to talk about this. There's not a lot to talk about with Michigan State. Spartans lost down in Bloomington to Indiana. Michigan squeaked out a win at home against Minnesota. But Jared, you might be on this story. I don't know. Right out of Detroit, Detroit Mercy's Antoine Davis put up 42 against IUPUI. Second place. I mean, this came out of nowhere to me. I guess I wasn't on top of it. Second place all time in college basketball points. That's a pretty amazing story coming out of Detroit.
Yeah, it is. I mean, UDM, we went to a UDM game my senior year of high school. It's a very cool gym. I mean, Dick Vitale court, Antoine Davis. I mean, the guy can hoop, man. I mean, you put up that many points at any level. I mean, we've seen it like with Jack Taylor, Grinnell, way back in the day, scoring like 100 points in a game. I mean, to be the second all-time leading scorer in the NCAA right from Detroit, like you said, a very small story. I don't know why there hasn't been as much hubbub about this. I like that, Ted, you're doing your job and you're bringing it to the forefront, because I would have forgotten to do it. Yeah. So I appreciate it.
No problem.
I was going to say, I was pretty sure. Yeah, he's number 2 in scoring, and he broke the record for 3-pointers made.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's up there. It's not like he's just some dude that, I don't know, is just filling up some no-name league. I mean, UDM, they play. That's a legitimate league that they play in. They make the tournament, fairly often.
Yeah.
So he's scoring a lot, and I mean, because after I saw him breaking these records, I looked at some NBA mock drafts, and he's not really on any radars for the NBA. You have to think he'll at least get, like a G League invite or something. Some team, if you can shoot like that, shooting translates. Right. Whether you can shoot in D2 for Grand Valley State or at Detroit Mercy, if you can shoot, you can shoot. So I bet someone was going to give him, a chance.
Right.
It's just, can he play NBA basketball, especially in today's NBA? If you can,
who's the kid that went to Miami from Michigan that just lights it up, or has?
Oh, Duncan Robinson.
Yeah, Duncan Robinson.
Right. Man, he got himself like a pretty big contract because he had like one good season, and now he doesn't really play. So
yeah, he just kind of phased out of the lineup. With somebody like Davis, all you hope for that, get him in the tournament. Mm-hmm. Because you get him in the tournament, that's where some magic can happen. And those are the type of storylines and players that you end up taking to the Elite Eight when they're going to end up losing round 1 by maybe 20.
And I know you're thinking of like Marshall Henderson, aren't you, Jared?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the exact story you want in the tournament. A lame year where Michigan and Michigan State aren't very good. Give me Detroit Mercy and Davis just lighting up Duke or something like that. Actually, Duke is kind of down this year too.
Right. Well, if you like, it reminds me of Jalen Preston, Ohio, from a couple of years ago. That kind of Cinderella story. I mean, they keep coming. What's the Oral Roberts? Admas and O'Bannon or whatever their names were. I mean, yeah, it's just cross your fingers. They somehow win their tournament, conference tournament, and they get in.
Yeah. It'd be great to see, and just a neat little Detroit story. And it blows my mind that he's second all time to my all time, by far, number one favorite player, Pistol Pete Maravich. And you think about him scoring over almost 3,700 points without a 3-point line.
It's a lot.
It's a
lot of points without a 3-pointer. That is
3 years. He didn't play his freshman year either.
Matt, tell me if I'm wrong, but isn't it kind of funny how it's like his brain? There's like 5 different like branches it goes to. And he comes up with his topics depending on if he can circle it back to them. Barry Sanders, OJ Simpson, Pete Maravich. Who am I missing?
Something on HBO.
Yeah, HBO. And Michael Imperioli, Sopranos. If he can, if a topic can somehow find its way back to one of those 5 guys, then he'll bring it up. Other than that, he kind of lets it go.
Hey, the older you get, you only have so much room in that brain. So about 5 topics in that spider brain of mine, man. You're probably right. You got me on that one.
It is impressive, and it too, like to your point, like Pistol Pete only playing 3 years. Those are records that nowadays in college basketball are going to be really tough to break because kids, I mean, except for in these lower schools where they do play for 3 or 4 years, but most kids don't play 3 or 4 years of college basketball anymore. So, that's an impressive record, but not to bury the lead with the Pistol Pete thing, him having that record, only playing 3 years and no 3-point line is just crazy to think about. That's a lot of mid-range jumpers.
He shot a lot of balls at the 3-point line if there would have been one. I mean, he shot deep, man. So yeah, he was phenomenal. By the way, I'll mix this in too, Jared. I did more homework. It's another topic we might want to get into on 3-Point Podcast. Michigan's not been without. I'm talking Michigan football's not been without some controversy. The whole cheeseburger gate with Jim Harbaugh and the whole president announcing him staying, which we've already talked about, but now, their co-offensive coordinator, Matt Weiss, let go. And we don't know the whole story. At least I don't, just something to do with the university's computer system. But will that hurt them? Will that be good for them? Maybe to narrow it down to one coordinator?
Yeah. I think it'd be better to give it to Sharon Moore, who is probably the better offensive coordinator, the better recruiter. All the reports out there are that Matt Weiss wasn't a very good recruiter. So, what did they lose? I don't know. He probably was a pretty good coach, but they're shopping around different names for the new quarterbacks coach, Brian Griese, one of them. Doesn't seem like that's going to happen, but even like T. Martin, the quarterback that won a title with Tennessee could come in. So I don't know. It might end up being a good thing. The big thing to me is I hope whenever we do actually find out what he got in trouble for, I'm glad they fired him and just like got it ahead of it. No matter what he did, he broke some rules, just move on, fire him, get on with it. I was like, I hope he wasn't going in and like changing players' grades to keep them eligible for the season, to where they would have to like vacate some wins or something like that. I was like, I hope it's not something like that. Hopefully he was just like hacking into people's Facebook accounts. Whatever, something stupid.
It's concerning, man. I tweeted it out. This off season is not the type of off season that leads you into a national title run. It's been ugly. Every day a new distraction. Every day something new, something worse than the previous day. I don't know what the hell was going on with this. We haven't heard really what he did. I'm surprised we haven't heard what he did yet. Seems terrible regardless. Like I said, Matt, they just got on fire as soon as it happened. I think we were all in agreement. Like, just fire this guy. Just be done with it. From what I understand, he kind of was like the passing game sort of coordinator, while Moore was sort of the run game. So we'll see. I don't think any of us were really blown away with our passing attack these last 2 years. The running game has been what's been critical. So I guess we get to keep that key cog. But no, it's just depressing. It's the last thing we needed after that TCU debacle was an off season like this. And we still got a lot of days to go before opening day comes around in September. So it's just, let's just get through it. And let's see who we can maybe replace. Brian Griese is one of them.
Hey, a quick thought. I mean, Brian Griese's quarterback coach for the 49ers. If he for any reason thought about coming to Michigan, he'd have to be really named co-offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, wouldn't he? To even think about it?
I mean, I would think that's got to be part of the deal. He's not leaving Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers to just come be just a quarterbacks coach at Michigan. People can say, "Oh, he's an alum and he loves Michigan," all they want, but when you're a quarterbacks coach for the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, it's probably a pretty good gig. So
well, look what he's done. I mean, look what they're doing with Mr. Irrelevant. You know, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I would think like that's probably what he's saying. I'll come be the quarterbacks coach if you name me associate head coach or offensive coordinator or something like that.
Right.
So
one thing that I did think was kind of funny, and of course, as soon as his name got thrown out as a potential replacement, everyone's like digging up his old tweets. He had some tweet from like 2020 with some graphic from Harbaugh. It was like Harbaugh's records versus these like top 25 teams. He's like, "Is this serious? Like, it's time to move on or something." So I almost hope he gets hired just to hear what that potential conversation would be like with Harbaugh around that. One thing I got to throw out maybe before we move on to our Tedertainment Tonight stuff. And Matt, I kind of want your thoughts in particular on this. A couple of the mock draft seasons is here with us for the Detroit Lions. Two of the big names have been thrown out there: Michael Mayer, tight end, Notre Dame, and the guy who I sung the praises of week 1, Florida Gator quarterback Anthony Richardson. I mean, one, where the hell are these coming from? Two, let's say one of these two guys are selected. What are our thoughts on it?
One, no, on the tight end. I don't care who he is. No, stop drafting tight ends in the first round. You don't need to do that. Even if this dude ends up being the next Rob Gronkowski, I don't care. So if that's the case, no on that. Anthony Richardson might end up being a good quarterback in the NFL. I watched him enough at Florida this year. He is so far away from being a starting quarterback in the NFL. Even if you got Goff, so you think like, oh, we'll draft him and maybe he can sit for a year or two behind Goff. Maybe if you draft him in like the 5th or 6th round or something like that, but no, those first 2 rounds, I want defense. It's funny. I was just today at work. Me and a buddy were doing on Pro Football Focus. You can do mock drafts, like literally you can go through and draft players. It's kind of fun, but we did a couple for the Lions, and he kept asking me, he's a Steelers fan, but he kept asking me, like, what do you want? I was like, honestly, first 2 rounds, defense. Give me defense. I want a couple corners. I want another defensive lineman. I want a linebacker. It kept coming up. Jack Campbell, the linebacker at Iowa, who's won like best player in the Big Ten the last couple of years.
He's pretty good.
He always kept kind of being available in the second round. And I was like, man, if they could get him in the second round, put him next to Rodrigo on defense. Give me defense, man.
I'm with you. I can't even add anything to that, Matt. You stole it right out of my mouth there. That's perfect. That's
I mean, it all comes down to fully healthy. Their fully healthy offensive line is one of the best in the NFL.
100%.
Fully healthy receivers. If Jamison Williams is actually fully healthy, they're fine at receiver. Yep. You can always, their tight ends are fine. They found Brock Wright wherever the hell they found him, and he scored like 8 touchdowns this year.
That's why you don't draft one number 1, for God's sake.
You don't need that. They need to, in my opinion, they need to resign Jamal Williams. I think that's a big one. Bring him back with DeAndre Swift. Like really on offense, I think they're fine. Like later rounds, you might want to draft a receiver for some depth or
a quarterback to build on.
You got it, man. They need defense. They need defense. Yeah. It can't just be Hutchinson. It can't just be him.
Yeah, I mean, we saw with a couple of things that I saw this weekend that were big. One, we saw from this Bengals-Bills games. One, you need a pass rush. We've always that's been the NFL buzzword for the last 15 years. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you really saw it in that game. So I would not hate a pass rusher, obviously. But we also saw, on the other end of the ball, Cincinnati Bengals, they have 3 wide receiver number 1s. I mean, if you want to win the Super Bowl, if you want to really win a Super Bowl, look at the offenses. Kansas City, Cincinnati, San Francisco has maybe the best offensive line and running game athletes everywhere with Kittle, Samuel, and McCaffrey. But the way I look at Detroit, man, just draft the best player on the board. Yeah, I wouldn't hate another wide receiver. Why not? Just load up this. I love strengthening your strength. Why not? If there's a stud wide receiver there at the 6th pick, take him. And we'll deal with the rest later.
What's your thought on the Notre Dame tight end?
No,
Okay.
Yeah.
there's just too many people would be out on the tight end as soon as it happened.
Yep.
So I think he's good. I like him. He's been on a couple podcasts that I listen to. Seems like a really good kid. Notre Dame usually turns out pretty good tight ends, but no, it just can't. Even if he is the next Gronkowski, if he goes to the Lions, he will not be. That's a promise.
I mean, we saw what happened. I saw a stat that, and this kid may not be TJ Hawkinson, but once Hawkinson got traded, everything turned around for the Lions. And I think I saw after Hawkinson got traded, Jared Goff only threw 1 interception.
Yeah.
The whole, it was like 7 when Hawkinson was there. And
I think they're all targeting Hawkinson or something. Wasn't that what I read?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, yes, this dude might end up being Travis Kelce or, whatever, George Kittle, whatever we want to say. But that's not what they need. They did fine with Brock Wright. He actually scored a winning touchdown for them, so they did fine with him. I wouldn't be against, you mentioned receiver, Jared, depending on where it was.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against another receiver, mostly too, because Amon-Ra St. Brown has kind of got dinged up and hurt a little bit. Obviously, Jameson Williams coming off that knee injury. Hopefully he's fine and 100% next year. So I wouldn't be against another receiver in the right spot. I wouldn't want them trading up or, do something crazy for it. But, like you said, sometimes it's all about just who's the best available. If someone takes, the player you want before you pick, and the next player is one of those receivers out of Ohio State, go ahead and take it. I don't know, but
yeah. Well, we're getting closer to football depression, fellas. I mean, we got 2 games this Sunday and then the Super Bowl, and then it's kind of countdown to March. We'll dig in a little bit more in basketball then, but a couple of good matchups with the 49ers and Eagles and Bengals and Chiefs. Should be a good Sunday. Looking forward to that.
And I actually just thought of it, Matt. Maybe you probably would agree with me. If this one guy I would take first round, Brock Bowers, I would take him. I know he's not in this draft, but next year if we find ourselves with a top 5 pick, I don't care. Draft him.
That guy looks like a game changer. Yeah. So next draft, fill up on defense and everything this year. Next year, all right, go get your tight end.
There you go. All right. Well, that's good stuff, fellas. And let's wind up the podcast with a little edition of Tedertainment Tonight right after this. All right, let me start this off real quick, because we know Jared has hopped on the Yellowstone bandwagon. Good for you. I mean, I just look at Yellowstone, 1883, 1923, 3 tremendous series, all by Taylor Sheridan. And I think I texted you guys. I'm all in on Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone. This show, I watched all 9 episodes. I did 2 sets of 3. Watching 3 episodes, binging kind of. I couldn't stop watching, and I'm all totally caught up. The first season is 9 episodes, and it ends like it always does with a cliffhanger type of thing.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. And
show.
if you like The Sopranos, Jared, and you like Yellowstone, it's a combination of both. It's just awesome.
What are you watching? What are you watching Yellowstone on, Jared?
Peacock. For seasons 1 through 4 on Peacock, I believe.
I'm surprised while you're watching Peacock. Are there ads when you watch on Peacock? I'm trying to remember.
I pay the extra $4 for the ad.
So I was gonna say if you watch on Hulu or when it's live, it's like Tulsa King ads constantly when you're watching Yellowstone. So I was like, I'm surprised you haven't seen this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Sylvester Stallone. I mean, Ted just laid it all out. It's I definitely want to watch it. I mean, add it to the list.
Yeah.
But I've got season tickets to Sylvester Stallone. He's one of my favorite actors. He doesn't obviously do a whole lot anymore, but I like him a lot. So
this might.
I don't doubt that it's really good.
This might be his best work since. I'm going to go back to Rocky. I mean, it's really, really good. I mean, he's 70 years old, but the dude can still act, and he still has the arms, man, and it's just a great plot.
The arms. Steroids don't go away, man.
Well, there you go.
You give me and our listeners what's like a 3-sentence teaser. What is this even about?
Okay. The plot is, without giving away much, he is sent away to prison. He's a mob guy, right? He's out of the New York mob, and he takes the fall, goes to prison for 25 years, comes back with his boys in New York, and the Godfather, his son's kind of taken over, and he's not a big fan of or of Stallone's character, and so they ship him to Tulsa. Okay, ship him to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to earn money for them. It's kind of a just get out of here,
Right.
and it goes from there. And it's classic Sylvester Stallone as now a Tulsa mob boss. It's incredible. Some of the characters he gets hooked up with. You'll love it.
Yeah,
Matt,
that sounds good. And it's one of those to add to the list. So 9 episodes, you said, did they all come out at once? They're all out?
They're all out now. Yeah, I watched it on Paramount Plus. So, and I'm looking forward to what's the other one? The prison one. Jeremy Renner. Okay.
Oh, we keep seeing an ad for that one too. That looks really good too.
Yeah,
Jeremy Renner.
I watched the first season, and the name of it, I'm drawing a blank. I didn't have it written down, but it's really, really good. And I'm definitely going to hop on board the second season. Too violent for my wife, though. I mean, it is violent.
Yeah.
So wait, the first season is out of that? Oh yeah, Mayor of Kingstown.
Mayor of Kingston, yeah.
Oh, I have heard a lot about that show. I've heard that is good. I didn't know that he was in it.
Yep.
Speaking of, Matt, you said season ticket guys. I mean, this guy has kind of burst on the scene within the last 5 years, and he just keeps coming out with great stuff. I mean, Pedro Pascal, I'd love to know what you guys think of this guy. I mean, he stars in The Mandalorian. It was a Game of Thrones, the Viper in that show. Now he's in The Last of Us, which is just 2 episodes in on HBO Max. So it was an old video game from like 2013. Matt, I saw you tweeted that you played it. It was right in its sweet spot, right when I was coming of age, right as a teenager. It was a big time game. And it was always one of those games where there's a lot of games where you're playing them and they have, the kind of campaign mode, as they call it, where when I was a kid, I would always skip right through it with the X button. This was not one of those games. I mean, The Last of Us, it was awesome. And this TV show, Ted, you say it best. I mean, HBO, when they do something, they do it right.
Yep.
There was no expense taken. I mean, I think they perfectly casted the show. Pascal, one of my favorites, man. He does a great job. All the performances are great. The like creatures look incredible. I mean, it's a zombie show, but it's a different type of zombie. These zombies are a fungus has basically taken over their bodies and taken over the world, and that's how they kind of are how it was started. So it's just a great show. I love it. It's only 2 episodes in, so now is the time to get on it before you miss out on the wave of popularity.
Yeah, I definitely want to watch it because like you basically laid out right there. I loved that first game, and it was one of those like you didn't want to put down. You just wanted to keep playing and playing and playing. And the second game came out. I haven't had a chance to play it, but when I saw they were making a TV show out of this, I was like, this is the perfect, like the video game. It basically already was a TV show. It was like a movie while you were playing it. So it's almost a no brainer, but yeah, it being on HBO with the actor and, some of the other people in it, like you mentioned, I got to get on it before I fall too far behind, because I know I'll enjoy it for sure.
Let me ask you guys this. You say there's a second version of it out now. What is currently, for a guy like me, I'm not on top of these things, what's the game right now to play?
I mean, the sports games are still huge. People still play Madden and NBA 2K, and 2K is the NBA game. People still play Call of Duty, from what I hear. But Jared might know a couple more. But
yeah, I mean, Fortnite's been huge for years now. It's still huge. The big thing with Call of Duty, Ted, you probably see this on Twitter. Warzone. If you ever see the words Warzone, that is basically Fortnite, but Call of Duty version. Just so you know. Yeah. And Fortnite, I should probably explain this. It's basically Hunger Games, but video game form. So that's kind of what it is. Battle Royale, as they call it. It's like 60 people or whatever the number is, all in a world, and you last man standing type thing. So that's the big thing. And those games are free, which is kind of the coolest part about it. Yeah, they have you can buy costumes or whatever for your character that costs money. But that's one of the best things is that, these 2 very highly popular games are free.
Right.
How do they make the money?
Like I said, with these add-ons, buy a Jason mask for your character, whatever you want. So
you can buy upgrades and stuff like that, which you do once you get into the game. You're gonna do it. So yeah, there's a few games that I would get back into gaming for. If NCAA football ever comes back, I will definitely play that, because that was like the best game. before
Yeah.
before it
And
went
that's one of
away.
those games. I mean, they was supposed to come back like this year, and then of course they pushed it back another year. That's
Yeah.
another one. You believe it when you see it on
Right.
the shelf.
Yeah,
It's kind of like what was it that we were talking about earlier? Where there's the Sports Creek, how there's a new
Yeah.
Facebook post every day about it. That's the same thing with that video game. There's a new post every day saying how it's coming out, and it
Yep.
still hasn't came out.
Doubt it.
Well, going full circle back to you, Jared. How far are you on Yellowstone? And are you going to watch 1883 and 1923 if you ever have time?
I got to retract a statement I made last week. I compared Kevin Costner's performance to, Bryan Cranston, and you threw out the name Bob Odenkirk. He's nowhere near. He's nowhere near it. It's a good show. Don't get me wrong. I like the show. I'm still watching it. It's a little cheesy. I feel like as soon as
At times,
very strong on Yellowstone, I feel like I almost regretted it as soon as I did. It's a good show. I like it. I wouldn't put it with Game of Thrones, and I wouldn't put it with some of the, like a Breaking Bad. Very good show. Can't take your eyes off the screen when you're watching it. I just think it's a little the dialogue, and especially these villains, like the Beck brothers, and from season 1, I don't even remember, some businessman who's been in a lot of other films. I just couldn't quite look past them. I thought they were a little bit cheesy. It could have been done better. Still a good show. I don't want to get you guys upset, but
yeah,
I won't get upset.
No, it's good. It's one of those things too. I think I mentioned it last week or the week before. It's like some of the stuff is pretty far fetched. To me, anyway, the way I watch shows sometimes is like maybe I ruin it for myself. I'm just like, well, they're not going to kill Beth.
Right.
She's the best character in the show. So, and everything she goes through, she's not going to die. They're not going to kill Kevin Costner. That's not going to happen. So they're not going to lose the ranch until the show ends, maybe. So however long they're doing the show, whatever happens, they're not going to lose the ranch, So that I just always think about sometimes when the drama comes up, I'm like, all right, I want to see how this plays out, but I mean, they're going to be okay. You know what I mean? Type of thing. So,
well, I agree with what you're saying there. I really enjoyed 1883. That was just a 1-season run. It was good.
Yeah, it was
but
cool.
1923 blew my mind. I mean, it really did. It's outstanding.
Who's the lead guy in that one? Tim McGraw?
No.
Harrison Ford.
Oh.
Harrison Ford is one of the lead guys that you would know. Yeah. Helen Mirren is his wife, but there's a young guy. His name in the show is Spencer. And I think he steals it. In fact, Matt's wife is in love with her. Yeah. Or in love with him, I should say.
I mean, I am too, to be honest with you.
He's really good.
Show. But Tim McGraw's in 1883. He's in with Sam Elliott and some of the other people.
Faith Hill.
Yeah, Faith Hill. But
like I said, a good show. I feel like I come off too negative a lot on this podcast. It's a good show. Yeah. It's just I was maybe a little overzealous with my love of it when I threw it up there with, like I said, Cranston and the Game of Thrones of the world. I can't put it up there. It's the tier below that.
You toned it down. That's all
right. What do you think of Rip?
Oh, he's probably my favorite character. He's a badass. Okay. I thought it was I can't say what I was gonna say. It's a spoiler, so I'll leave it. He's a badass. Like I said, it's the villains that I kind of just, and sometimes Costner, man. He's got this deep voice. Obviously, he does a good job performing. People love it. People think he's great in it. He's just a little over the top for me sometimes. Like he's always talking to Casey's wife, right. And their conversations are always kind of, what am I watching right now? But other than that, it's a good show.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of the train station?
That's spoiler, but I mean, I love I will say I do love the idea of the branded men. You're a branded man. You never can leave. You're for life. That is some kind of pretty bad ad. That is the one. That's my favorite part of the show is the branded men portion.
Fair enough. All right, guys. I think we made it through another one. It's always longer than we think it's going to be, isn't it? Yep. We get talking. It's fun though. I love it. And this has been the 3 Point Podcast. And of course, we're brought to you by Memorial Healthcare's Now Community Wellness Center and Skymint Cannabis. Skymint Cannabis, again, the big news. If you're over 21 and from Michigan, you're soon going to be living every cannabis consumer's dream, free marijuana for an entire year. Skymint's running a sweepstakes competition now through Monday, January 30th. Just hop online, register. It's that simple, right? Get in the sweepstakes.
Yeah. That's 6 G's, man, for a year. As we talked about earlier, the 500. I can't fathom one person using up that much, man. You got to be Cheech and Chong.
24. It's one of those things. Like, you talk about Mega Millions. Mega Millions, you actually have to go to a gas station, buy
Right.
the ticket, go through all that. You're already sitting on the toilet on your phone right now while you're listening to us. Just pull up Skymint and fill out the form and give it a shot.
Or check them out on Instagram, and just enter the code free weed. How simple can that be?
Yeah.
Also, Memorial Healthcare is now a community wellness center. You guys know how I love that place. When I miss a day, and I rarely miss a day, but when I miss a day going there to do my own little workout, it's like withdrawal. I miss the steam room, like we talked about the open of the show, the sauna. They have the pool there, the lap track. I mean, it's just incredible. And with Valentine's Day coming up, purchase yourself a gift card for one of your loved ones for a massage or any of the other things there. Just stop into the front desk and tell them you want to sign up. It's that simple.
It's awesome. We did the tour. We saw everything. I mean, Ted, I think the biggest thing we could say at this point, let's just let your results speak for themselves.
Okay. The goal right now is check me Easter. It's going to be a slow drop, just like it was before. The mission's basically tone it up, 5 pounds a month. It's doable.
Yeah.
It's doable. So check in with me in Easter. Also, I want to tell you to check in at all our great sponsors. They include AZEE Printing Solutions, Crow Real Estate and Auction, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, now serving lunch, Capital Sports Fieldhouse, Nelson House Funeral Homes, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Make sure you give us a follow on social media at 3 Point Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Z92.5 Game of the Week coming up Friday, January 27th. It's Corunna at Owosso. You're going to want to definitely tune in for that one. 3 Point Podcast will have the girls game as well. And then Tuesday, January 31st, Ovid Elsie at Langsburg. Maybe we'll hook up with Josh Latz next week and kind of do a preview. Just as always, everybody, peace and love. Be kind. Thanks for listening.